Recently, I've been putting this 40-year-old body to the test, doing various fitness assessments. But I'd really like to know, how strong am I? In this video, I'm going to do some basic tests to measure my strength and power. And the great thing is you can do them too, as they're accessible and low cost and could give a huge insight into overall health. This video comes in 5 sections, and I've got the exercises from the Huberman Lab podcast, which features Dr. Andy Galpin, who's a human performance scientist. And just before we get started, a quick note to say that these tests are to measure good health rather than measure athletic performance. The first section is movement and skill, and it assesses how well the body moves through basic movements. And for this test, you'll need a camera, and a phone is just fine. For this video, I enlisted the help of my friend and strength coach, Sam Bacon, who you may recognise from my push-up video. In the podcast, it gave 4 exercises, but to keep things simple, and I'm hoping you guys will do these exercises as well, I'm just going to include 1. The first exercise is a bodyweight squat, ideally going all the way down without the heels coming off the ground. Do that a few times, and record yourself from the front and the side. And after, watch the video back and assess the movement joint by joint, and look for range of motion, symmetry from right to left, and stability. It's helpful to have someone who knows what they're looking for when watching the video, but if not, we can often spot things ourselves. Even just by doing the exercises and experiencing the way they feel gives us feedback on what we can improve. The squat is something that everybody should be able to do. And I've been practicing this for 10 years, and I only just got down there a few years ago. So here's what Sam thinks of my bodyweight squat.
Now we can also start to see a slight hip shift to the right and rotation to the left, which means you're likely placing more weight through the right side. These red lines act as markers of how wide your knees are. Straight away we can see that the left knee is wider in comparison to the right. If we then draw on a centre line in white, and then some more lines in green, you can then see the asymmetries stand out. From the side view we can see that you're more of a hip dominant squatter. This could be due to structural reasons such as having long femurs or upper leg bones, or functional reasons such as mobility and stability available at certain joints. If your knees don't go very far past your toes, represented by the white line, this is going to result in a more vertical shin angle, which means the only way for you to get lower is to lean forwards. The further the knees travel forwards, the more upright your squat would be. From the rear view you can see the hip shift a lot more from this angle. If we again draw on the red lines to indicate how wide your knees are, then draw on the centre line in white and the green lines to show the distance from the red to the white. You can see that your hips are shifting over to the right, and therefore the left knee is wider. We can also see the slight rotation to the left if the left ankle doesn't want to flex as much. This will then affect everything upstream. However, it's important to highlight that asymmetries are very common, and it's not necessarily something that needs to be addressed, but it can be improved if required.
So nothing major, but there's definitely some room for improvement. And by working on these things, it might have a positive effect on other areas of my body. Next up is testing power, and for this you'll need a measuring tape. There are 3 exercises to test power, and if you want a sheet with all of the exercises on, then you can get a downloadable document. I've added a link in the description and the pinned comment. The first test is the broad jump. Begin with a standing start and then jump as far as you can. No run-ups allowed, but you can use your arms for momentum. Measure from where your toes start to where the back of your feet land. And if one foot lands behind the other, measure from the back foot. In the podcast, Andy Galpin said that ideally we should be able to jump our height. Women can take off 15% due to generally, but not always, having less power than men. I did 3 jumps and took the best result. My height is 5'6", which works out at 168 centimetres, and my best result was 175.3.
Very good.
I was able to jump 4.5% beyond my height, which I was so happy about because I didn't think that I'd be able to do that because I'm not usually very good at jumping, which you'll see in the next test. But before I explain that, a quick note to say, if you haven't jumped in years, then it's probably best not to do these jumping tests because your body won't be used to the movement, and I really don't want you to get injured. There's an alternative to the broad jump, which you can do instead of or as well as, and that's the vertical jump. Face a wall, put one hand over the other, and jump as high as you can. To get the measurement, use some chalk on your fingertips or a bit of tape to stick to the wall. Before this, I've always done a vertical jump like this, facing to the side, but this one hand over the other facing the wall technique was the one Andy Galpin explained in the podcast. And what I found is doing it like this is a lot harder, and it probably gives a truer reading, as I couldn't extend and reach through the side of my body to get more height. For men, the ideal is being able to jump 24 inches or 61 centimetres. For women, it's 15% less, which works out at 20.4 inches or 51.8 centimetres. And going over the age of 50, 20 inches is ideal. And those numbers are a lot. I didn't feel confident, and my results totally reflected that. My best result was 7.5 inches. 7.5 inches. The ideal was 20 inches. How is that even possible to jump that high? The next tests are where it gets really juicy. It's the ones to see how strong we are.
Up, 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 up!
It ain't moving! So next up is the strength testing, which has got 3 exercises and some great alternatives. First up is testing grip strength, which can be measured in 2 ways. The first is with something called a dynamometer. And I bought this from Amazon, which cost about £40. Did you know that grip strength has a direct correlation to life expectancy, and it can be considered a better measurement than blood pressure? And if, like me, you're thinking,
well, hold on, what's that all about?
Having good grip strength can be a reflection of overall muscle mass and muscle quality, and it can reflect a good function in the body. Think of it like being able to carry heavy things and do certain tasks with ease through having strong hands. And the ideal numbers for grip strength on one of these is men should be able to get a minimum of 40 kilograms and ideally going for 60 kilograms, and women should be able to get a minimum of 35 kilograms and ideally looking to get 50 kilograms. And there should be no more than 10% difference between each hand.
Right hand is 28.6
And left is 3, 2, 1.
27.2.
That's not great, especially compared to what I should have got, but at least both hands were evenly not very good. Sam and I got talking about these ideal numbers that Andy Galpin gave, and at first we thought that they were really high just for a normal person. Then we realised many people live a sedentary lifestyle, sitting at a computer most of the day, and generally our modern lives don't support a healthy, optimal life. Typical humans are meant to be strong and agile, being able to run, bend, twist. So although these numbers seem high, they should be attainable with steady and consistent training. And what a great goal to aim for, especially as they can have such a huge positive effect on overall well-being, quality of life and life expectancy. So after going off on a bit of a tangent, let's come back to grip strength. If you don't want to buy one of these things, an alternative is the dead hang, hanging from a bar as long as possible. The minimum time is 30 seconds, 30 to 50 seconds is good, and 60 seconds and above is ideal. And again, if you haven't hung from a bar in a while, it's probably best to skip this one. I managed to hang for 2 minutes and 1 second, which really surprised me, mainly because I'm not very good at stuff like this, but also because it doesn't really reflect the other grip test I did. Okay, are you ready for the juicy stuff now? This is where it gets good. The next test is the back squat. This exercise is full on in terms of needing equipment and the ability to do it. So there are alternatives, so stick with me. The first option for the back squat is to do a 1 rep max, the maximum weight you can squat in 1 repetition. And this is great for someone who's used to doing this type of exercise. I don't do this type of exercise often, but as I've got Sam as my spotter, let's give it a go, shall we? Starting with lighter weights, I work my way up the weights, taking breaks in between. And just so you know, I've just started this type of exercise, so if you see something's not quite right, then just remember this is me trying my best and sharing my experience.
Nice. Yeah.
I managed to get a 1 rep max of 60 kilograms. I tried 65 and failed.
Go on, try. Right?
Yeah.
Knees out, knees out, knees out.
It's horrible. And there is an alternative to doing a 1 rep max, because that is quite a scary exercise, I think. And that's to do a maximum of 2 to 5 reps and then using an online conversion chart to work out your equivalent 1 rep max. It may not be totally accurate, but it can be a great guideline. And Andy Galpin didn't give an ideal number in the podcast, but I suppose it's to do with different body types and different body compositions. I weigh 63 kilograms and I was able to squat 60 kilograms. So I was almost squatting my body weight, which I'm quite happy with, but I do have a goal of being able to squat 1.5 times my body weight, which is 95 kilos. And this video is part of a series investigating my health and my fitness. Over the last few videos, I've done cardio tests and blood tests, so I'll be retesting all of this stuff in 12 months to see what improvements I can make. A less complicated alternative to the back squat is the leg extension test, which most gyms have. The ideal for this is to be able to leg extension one's body weight, and with every decade over the age of 40, it gives a 10% reduction. I weigh 63 kilograms, which works out at 139 pounds. So we put 140 pounds on the machine, and to my surprise, I was able to do it, which I didn't think I'd be able to do. And we didn't go any higher because I didn't really fancy it. Maybe next time. Another alternative to testing leg strength is to do the front or goblet squat. Hold half of your body weight on a dumbbell, barbell or kettlebell and squat down. We went for thighs parallel to the floor, and the ideal is to be able to hold for 45 seconds.
Go on. Really go for it.
It's horrible. How does anyone mean to do that?
With 32.5 kilograms, I lasted 14 seconds. That was so tough. Maybe you're tempted to try some of these exercises yourself. Let me know in the comments, and maybe if you're feeling brave enough, you'll share your results too. Those were the exercises to measure strength from the podcast, but considering I was with Sam, we also decided to do my 1 rep max deadlift and my 1 rep max bench press. For the deadlift, I got 90 kilograms.
It was sticky.
And here's my 95 kilogram attempt.
Up, 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 up.
It ain't moving.
Obviously, someone stuck it to the floor. And it's only a guess, but I think 2 times body weight, which would be 125 kilograms, that would be a good weight for me to be able to lift. For the bench press, I got 42.5 kilograms.
Push, you got it. Nice.
Here's my attempt with 45.
Up, 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 up. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep
Can't do
going.
it.
Nope.
I'm thinking being able to bench press my body weight, that would be pretty cool. Next up is the hypertrophy test, and this tests muscle size. That was really cringy. Hypertrophy is usually associated with bodybuilding, and it's got a lot to do with the way the body looks, but it can also be an indicator of health too. Measuring hypertrophy requires a body composition test. So for this, you'll need to track down some body composition scales. Home scales are good, but using a professional one is more accurate. The measurements required for this is the fat-free mass index, which is the FFMI. For men, the ideal number is 20, and below 17 isn't ideal. For women, 18 is the ideal, and below 15 isn't very good. When I did the test 14 weeks ago, my result was 15.3, which is very close to not being ideal. This test actually showed that I was close to being borderline malnourished of muscle mass, which was also reflected in my blood tests, hence me starting my new weight training program. Having a body composition test and getting your fat-free mass index is a really good indicator of what's going on inside your body, rather than just looking at total body weight, and I really recommend it. We've got 3 more tests remaining, and these are probably best done on a separate day from all of the other ones. And just a quick note to say that it's a good idea to do all of these tests once a year, just to assess your health and your fitness. And it's also quite good fun and really interesting too. And even if you can't do all of the tests, give some of them a try. This isn't about being an athlete or a fitness fanatic. This is about overall health and well-being, because a strong and mobile body will take care of us. Next up is testing muscular endurance, and this is the ability for a muscle to perform multiple repetitions of an exercise. The first exercise is the front plank, and for this you'll need a timer. The ideal is a hold of 60 seconds. I managed 1 minute 30. I wanted more, but I couldn't manage it. Next is the side plank. The ideal is a hold of 45 seconds on each side. I got 1 minute each side and noticed that my left side felt better than my right. And then the push-up test. Not really looking forward to it. How many push-ups can you do in one go using proper form and no pauses? Chest to the floor, elbows locked at the top with no breaks. And the ideals for this test are killer. For men, it's 25 reps, with below 10 being not ideal. And for women, 10 is the ideal. I got 15, which I didn't think I'd get, but my recent strength training program has really helped. And if you're doing these tests and you're not getting close to the ideal, then don't be disheartened. Instead, be proud of yourself for doing them, and then use the results as motivation to improve. These tests have been used to measure strength and power, but overall health comes from having both good strength and good cardiovascular fitness. I've made a video about cardio tests, which I'll link up in the top, and I do plan to make a video about testing VO2 max without using a lab, using the Cooper test and the Rockport walk test, so keep an eye out for those on my channel. Here's all the tests. Perhaps you're tempted to give some of them a go. My next video is a flexibility test video that we can all do, so hopefully I'll see you in that one.